We all have a story. Maybe your story is a little bit boring. Maybe you think nobody really wants to hear your story. Or maybe your story is made up of a lot of different plots. Maybe your story is like mine, and just when you think that you've got the story figured out, and just that when you think you know how this is going to end, the next chapter takes on a whole new direction. And if that's the case, then that's okay too. Maybe your story is not filled with a tragedy, a young person who passed away with cancer, and maybe it doesn't include a brother who committed suicide, or maybe it doesn't include a divorce, or a dad who died at age 62 and left 5 kids and a wife to carry on. Maybe your story doesn't have quite that deep of valleys in it. And that just doesn't even scratch the surface of things in my life, and it probably doesn't scratch the surface of things in your life, but I can tell you those are pretty biggies. Those are the biggies from my life. But whatever your story is, you have a story, and you need to tell your story. This morning I was reading in Psalm 107, verse 2. And I've read that in the King James Version many times, and I even have sung the song, "Let the redeemed of the Lord say so." But this morning I was reading it in the New International Version, and it says, "Let the redeemed of the Lord tell their story." And I just thought, wow, as many times as I've gotten on a kick about this tell your story thing, I've never seen that verse. I have never seen it in the NIV that says, "Let the redeemed of the Lord tell their story." And you know what? If God has redeemed you, if He has brought you back, bought you with a price, the death of His Son and the blood of His Son, if He has bought you back from a life of sin and death and hell being your future, if He has done that for you, then you need to tell your story. Someone out there needs to hear it. And God doesn't bring us through these stories so that we can just say, okay, we got through that. One of my favorite verses, and it just escaped me, it's in Corinthians, I think it's 2 Corinthians chapter 4, but I don't know. But trust me, it's in there. And the gist of that verse says, God does not comfort us to make us comfortable. He comforts us to make us comforters. And what that verse means is God doesn't bring us through something horrendous in our life. He doesn't comfort us so that we can sit back in a recliner or slouch on the couch and lay back and say, "I'm glad that's over with. Wow, I'm glad I survived that." No, He comforts us to make us comforters so that we can tell our story to someone else who may be going through the same exact thing and who may be feeling like there is no way under God's creation that I can survive this. There may be someone who is feeling at the end of their rope because of something that they're facing, and you have faced that same thing, and you have come out the other side of it, and you didn't just come out of it, but you came out of it stronger, and you came out well. You survived it well, and that's how we did. We would never have wanted to face what we faced with Hannah. We would have never chosen that journey, ever chosen that journey. But you know what? God brought us through it. And we would have never wanted to choose, ever wanted to choose a journey of suicide of our only brother. But you know what? 3 years later, God has been faithful. He redeemed us, and He brought us back into a life that gave us eternity in heaven as our goal. And through that redemption, He has provided grace and mercy and love and strength to get us through anything that we face. Let the redeemed of the Lord tell their story. God has been so good to us. Yesterday morning I was teaching my Sunday school class, which is senior citizen ladies, and I am loving that. Love that class. The youngest one is in her early 70s, I'm guessing, and the oldest one will be 92 in just a few months. So we go from early 70s to 92. And yesterday we had 19 in there. And I just enjoy them so much. But I asked them, I said, by show of hands, if the Lord has ever been good to you, raise your hand. And all across the room, Some of them chuckled. Some of them smiled really big. Several of them teared up. Teared up as I looked from my left and I scanned the room all the way around because that's how they sit. And I scanned the entire room and I looked every one of them face to face, eyeball to eyeball. And I said, if God's ever been good to you, by show of hands, let me know. And every one of them simultaneously, of course, their hand went up in the air and said, yes, the Lord has been good to me. And I say to you out there, the Lord has been good to you. And if you are a Christian, then you are the redeemed. You have been redeemed. You have been bought with a price, and you have been brought back from a life of sin and death. And if that's you, then Psalm 107:2 tells you to tell your story. Today's Monday, and I challenge you that before the week's out, to find someone to tell your story to. And not only do they need to hear it, but you need to tell it. Because every time you tell it, it becomes a little bit easier to tell it the next time. And before you know it, you're pretty bold, and you're looking for opportunities to tell someone what God has done for you. Let the redeemed of the Lord tell their story, because He's been awfully good to us. And He doesn't leave us behind just so we can prop our feet up and say, we survived it. He leaves us behind, and He gives us a story to tell, because someone out there needs to hear that story. Are you redeemed today? Have you been redeemed? If so, tell your story.